One.
This week, Eddy Guerra joins us from the Gurkha Cigar Group. In our Debonair Ideal segment, we're going to talk about Cuba and baseball. Hopefully some cigars, too. We're going to do Unbanded number 303, which I'm smoking right now. In our Stogies of the Week, Will and I have a fantastic lineup of Stogies to review for you. As always, still kind of working our way through some of the new releases from the IPCPR trade show and some older favorites as well. So stay tuned. This is a Security Weekly production. Brought to you by paying homage to the Mecca of tobacco, Pinar del Rio, Cuba. Abe Flores opened his PDR cigar factory in the Dominican Republic over 10 years ago. Abe is one of the hottest boutique cigar makers in the industry today, earning the number 10 spot on Cigar Aficionado's top 25 cigars of 2014 with the Abe Flores 1975 Serie Privada. Abe and his team use Cuban blending traditions in a modern boutique Dominican factory. Smoke PDR cigars and cut, light, and taste what they love to do. M. Bombay cigars represent the most admired cigar culture of Cuba. They select the best of the best quality tobacco to use in the aging process. M. Bombay cigars are then rolled in Costa Rica by some of the most experienced cigar rollers, giving it a unique smoking experience. The band portrays the detailed and artistic nature of our small industry. Try the M. Bombay Casera, M. Bombay Mora, and the recently released M. Bombay Habana. M. Bombay Cigars, where the cigar is a way of life. I love that I get to smoke cigars and call it work.
Hey, Paul.
What's going on, cigar newbie?
I'm halfway through the cigar you gave me, and I was wondering if I could put it out and save it for later.
No.
Well, I wanted to try the Liga Privada with the Connecticut wrapper, and I was wondering where I could get some of those.
Yeah, so those don't exist.
Well, I also have some of the cigars you gave me from before, and I was wondering if I could store them in my refrigerator.
Only if you're going to eat them.
Don't be like Mark. Subscribe to Stogie Geeks Shorts with Paul and Will, a 10-minute show about all things cigar smoking. We provide tips and tricks on humidification, cigar storage, mini reviews on select cigars, accessories, and more. Stogie Geeks Shorts is one-stop shopping for learning about which cigars to smoke and the right way to cut, light, and store your favorite stogies. You can watch Stogie Geeks Shorts on our YouTube channel or subscribe using your favorite podcast app. For all the latest episodes, visit stogieshorts.tv.
Hey, Paul, this cigar is awesome, and I wanted to share it with you, and I was going to cut it in half.
Oh, boy. You need to watch Stogie Geeks Shorts. Welcome, everyone, to the Stogie Geeks Show. This is episode 203, and we're broadcasting live from Villiger North American Studios in Rhode Island. I'm, of course, your host, Paul Asadorian, here with you for this evening. On the lines via Skype, Mr. Will Cooper joins us. Welcome, Will.
Hey, Paul.
Will is, of course, the curator of Cigar-Coop.com, also known as the Cigar Encyclopedia. Always nice to be here for Stogie Geeks on this Monday evening, Will.
Paul, absolutely the same thing. It's a great way to start the week off. And then right after this, we're all going to go watch the New York Giants. A big Monday night game. I'm not confident about this game, but we'll see.
I really hope they play better than the Patriots did this week. That's all I can say. That was a very difficult game to watch.
But let's put it this: the upside is good for you guys. Brady's back. Garoppolo's going to be getting healthier, so right. I think you. But losing to Rex Ryan.
That's the worst part of it, right?
Oh my goodness, Rex Ryan.
I know, and he likes to razz us too. So.
You got to. Yeah.
I do. It was interesting on Facebook. I saw a couple of my friends saying Happy New Year, and I'm like, New Year, like, did I miss something? Like, how?
It is Happy New Year.
Like, how wasted did I get last night? Did I go into a time? And then I'm like, oh, Rosh Hashanah, of course, which is why, which was Sunday, and today being Monday, we observe the holiday in the public school system, which is why I was not in the office today, which kind of leads me to why I'm smoking our unbanded, like, as we're doing the show, and why it was so nice to come into the office and have a cigar after I hadn't had one in a day or two. So very nice to be back smoking.
I'm really curious about talking about this. Unbanded was kind of unique, I thought. I don't know. There was something very unique about this cigar, and I'm having a tough time pinpointing it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, the flavors are there, but it's not overwhelming my palate with flavor, if that makes any sense. I smoked one cigar before this, so I had a relatively fresh palate. So this one's been kind of interesting. We'll talk about it in our unbanded segment immediately following a Debonair Ideal. All right. Well, let's get into it. Eddy Guerra is here from the Gurkha Cigar Group. Eddy, welcome to the Stogie Geeks Show.
Thanks. I really appreciate being on here.
So, Eddy, how did you tell us a little about your background and how you come to work in the cigar industry?
Sure. I'd say about 4 or 5 years ago, I was living in Southeast Asia, and I opened up several whiskey and cigar bars. And while I was there, we started importing and distributing all non-Cubans into the region. We ended up becoming the largest distributor in the region and had amazing venues. And a little over a year ago, decided to sell that off and move back to America. And when I moved back, I was approached by Gurkha to see if I wanted to take over the marketing of the company, and I did, and here we are.
Excellent. So, Eddy, it's interesting, as you know, being the reviewers of cigars that we are, in our mantra here on Stogie Geeks is we review premium handmade cigars, and that's the only qualification. So we smoke everything.
Okay.
And I tell my friends, like, casually, or even not so casually, like, hey, I smoked this Gurkha and it was really good. And some people, like, kind of like moan and groan, like, oh yeah, Gurkha, like, and they have these preconceived notions. So, like, what preconceived notions have you viewed in the industry of Gurkha, and what have you done from a marketing branding perspective to deal with some of those preconceived notions?
Well, a lot of the let me just start off with it. There's a Gurkha for everyone. We have everything from very low price point, still premium quality, but a low price point, all the way to the ultra premium, super, $2,000 stick cigars. So what happens is a lot of people, there's so many SKUs, they might not smoke the right one that fits them or whatnot. So you have a lot of people that buy from catalogs and buy in bulk, and naturally cigars are priced accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
And some people might buy the bulk stuff and think it's, hey, I don't understand, how is this the most expensive cigar in the world, but I'm buying it for $4 a stick. It's not the same, and people confuse that. It's not that it's bad. We make excellent cigars. It's just there's a palette and a profile for everyone.
Yeah, there's such a vast offering. Now I have spoken with people who primarily order from catalog. In fact, one of my neighbors. And, I offer him cigars, and he's like, no, I got like this like stash of Gurkha cigars in my humidor. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. And he's like, these things are awesome. And he's basically, bought what he liked from catalogs, and he keeps them in his humidor, and he keeps them very well aged. And when he lights up a cigar, he's like, I thoroughly enjoy them. He's like, it didn't break my bank account to get them, and he really likes them.
Yeah, and that's really our goal. At the end of the day, we want to provide everyone with the premium product, and there's different ways of doing that, and a lot of our tactic is by putting stuff in catalogs, which gets the brand in people's hands. And when they go into a brick and mortar shop, we have brick and mortar exclusives, and they're very different. They're excellent, and sometimes we do that hopefully, so when people go into a brick and mortar, they're like, well, I had such a great experience with this cigar. Let me try this other line that I haven't tried.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I'll talk to smokers who are like pretty much exclusively smoke from the brick and mortar, and I think they've run into this kind of pattern where they are like boutique cigar smokers, and they see a brand like Gurkha, and they're like, no, I like my boutiques. I'm not going to try anything from Gurkha because whatever reason. And I'm like, but have you tried it? And they're like, nope, I smoke my, boutiques and the ones that are fresh and hot and new, and any other brand, like Gurkha, they're like, nope, I'm not. I'm like, you got to at least try it. How do you know if you like it, right?
We run into that quite a bit. I've run into that quite a bit. And again, if you don't try it, you don't know. So that might be somebody that's used to buy, it's like that natural progression. They start off with catalogs, and then they go into the brick and mortar, and then they go into the boutique stuff. And we do have a lot of really great blends that appeal to those people, but they just don't know because either maybe it's not featured in that one shop, or they just have the whole, like, I used to buy them online, so now I'm not going to buy them in the shop. And I mean, we have great vitolas and great blends, and sometimes I'll run into people like, no way. And I'll be like, listen, try this Lancero. It's fantastic. It's an amazing blend. And they'll do it, and then they always, I've never had somebody go, oh, not for me. Every time they've always been like, wow.
Well, I think the Cellar Reserve is a great line. And I remember when we first started the Stogie Geeks show, we received samples of the Cellar Reserve. And we tried them, and we were like, wow, this is really good. We like the cigar. And we gave it some good ratings very early on in the Stogie Geeks history. And that was when I believe Gurkha first started releasing some of those brick and mortar only releases.
So the Cellar Reserve, it's a racehorse. It's the 15-year-old it's the highest rated cigar we've had. It's one of the highest rated cigars in the world. It constantly is in the upper 90s, and it's by every rating scheme pretty much out there. They're amazing cigars. And we've obviously extended that line to doing the 15-year limitada, which is a Maduro version. We have the Edición Especial, which is the 18-year. We have the Platinum that we released 2 years ago, which is the 12-year. And the one that we just released at the show, it's going to be very limited because we didn't have enough of the tobacco that we wanted to do, but it's the 21-year. And yes, it does have 21-year tobacco in it. And they're phenomenal smokes. They're on the upper tier of what you're paying for a cigar for sure. So not many people could just constantly say, you know what, I'm going to spend $17 on a cigar. That doesn't happen every day. But I guarantee you'll see why they're always rated in the 90s and up, because it's just that great of a cigar.
And there's a lot of different sizes available as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It depends on which one, but we have basically in the 15-year, we have 5 sizes, and on the 18-year, we have 5 sizes, and everything else we have 3 sizes. Great vitolas.
And it's interesting, and I've tried some of the different sizes in the Cellar Reserve, like the Perfecto. Is there a Perfecto with a pigtail? Not a pigtail, but
yeah. So they're
pigtail
all
cap.
Yeah. They're all. So that's the one thing we do figurados across the board on the Cellar Reserve. We only have one vitola, which is a 6x60. It's not a figurado, but everything else is a figurado perfecto. And they all have pigtails. So it's kind of our signature on the line, and they burn great, and not many people could do those shapes. And
and I've always liked the figurados with the pigtail cap. To be honest with you, I always thought it was a great offering from Gurkha.
Yeah, people tend to like them a lot, and we got so much feedback about it that we actually, on one of our other lines, the Ghost, we decided to release 2 lines this year that have, the figurados with a pigtail on it, and people went crazy over them at the show this year. So,
it's interesting. Will, I don't know if you've ever talked to Stogie Santa about the Gurkha line.
A few times.
He always recommends the Gurkha Evil in its varying forms.
We just talked about that last week, actually, too, on the show.
Yeah, so I have some here, which is awesome. Which is funny, and there's a couple of different versions of the Evil. From what I could be getting those confused. I thought it was one with the black and red band. Which one was
No,
that?
no, you're thinking of the Extreme.
The
Okay.
Evil had the black, like the parchment type band.
Yeah. Now we did do Pure Evil, which was a limited, which was black and red, but the Extreme is what we have right now with the black and red, and that we re-released this year at the show.
I gotcha.
Just
So I actually smoked. Speaking of the Gurkha Evil,
You did smoke the Evil.
I did smoke the Evil with the traditional black and tan band on it. In fact, I have one here. It's kind of difficult to see on camera. It's still in the cellophane. And I smoked one with the cellophane was very, very yellow, almost brown.
I love that.
And it was a Churchill, and it was very, very good. So much so I went back to that same brick and mortar where some of the production guys had gone and got me this one cigar. These don't look as aged. They look like they've been sitting around for a little while. There is a little bit of yellow, not as yellow as the one the guys bought me. But I bought 5 more, and I have them here on set. And I thought that cigar was awesome. I talked about it, I think, last week on the show.
Yep.
And I've had some Robustos in this one, and I thought they were good. The Churchill, for me, I think is awesome. And this, like we were saying before the show, Eddie, this is a blend you've had in both brick and mortars and online since 2009.
Yeah. It is price protected online, so it once it's in brick and mortar, we try to keep our commitment to our retailers. So if it's price protected online, you won't see any crazy discounts on it.
And there's like
that.
It's like $10.
Yeah, it's not an expensive
$10
cigar.
for a Churchill. I think that's what it pays. About $10. $10 for a Churchill. Yeah.
I personally, we were having a chat about it. I personally love the Corona that we have in that cigar. That's
yeah. I haven't tried it in the Corona.
Oh man, it's amazing. It packs a mean punch, and like I was saying, I love Matafina, and that has a beautiful Matafina wrapper on it, and the flavor is just unreal. And see, that's like one of those cigars that when people, I give people, I'm like, this has been around for a while. Try this one, and people always come back to me like, oh wow, I didn't even realize it. And I was like, told you, we have some amazing smokes, and that cigar sells like crazy. To be honest, it's got a nice rating on it. It's got a 92, and you know.
I went back and smoked that after, because Paul did talk about the Churchill, and I actually had a Churchill. I went back and smoked, and I had not explored that cigar probably, Eddie. It had to be maybe 3 years. So, but mine I had out of the cellophane, but it was everything that Paul said. I mean, it had some complexity to it. You got some of that great Matafina. It didn't pack the punch, but like I know that Corona does. And I had told Paul last week, I remember that cigar packing a punch, and I've had the Coronas. But it still was medium plus, medium full, and it was very, very good.
Yeah. We love it, and people tend to like it. The sales on it are insane. So that's one of those products we're very happy with. So
there was one, and I'm trying to find it here. There was one that I did unbanded, and you can go back in the Stogie Geeks archives, and I'll pull that up, Will, so we can put that out there on social media. And I thought it was an Evil. It might have been something different.
I think it was something different.
It was something different that I unbanded to Mark Jr. and Stogie Santa on an early episode, and I still have some in my humidor. I should have brought one from home. And I unbanded it, and they were just raving about it through the whole unbanded segment. And then I released what it was, and they were surprised. And it was a really good cigar, and I don't remember which one it was.
Yeah, we got some, great stuff coming out after the show this year. Some amazing blends I think are just going to knock people's socks off. And I'm smoking one of them now. It's, the Heritage that we released prior. Well, we came out with the Maduro this year, which is a double Maduro basically, because we changed the binder on it. And when people try this, I mean, I just can't wait to see what the reaction is, because it went extremely well in the show, but that's obviously to all the retailers. I can't wait to consumers start trying this thing, because this is amazing.
Eddie, you did slip me one at the show. I smoked it. It was fantastic. I'm actually smoking the natural, the Habano right now.
Love that too.
And this thing, I know I actually got this last year at my brick and mortar, so it has some age on it as well. And again, we're big into aging cigars. It's a big thing. We have a lot of fun doing it. And here's another example of a cigar. It's really coming into its own with some age now.
Yeah, I tend to do the same thing. It's probably with no pun intended, Stogie Geek in me. But I normally, when I get a box, I'll put half of it away immediately to age in a couple of years and see what happens. But that cigar right there, it's amazing. And the new size. Did you see the new size that we came out with at the show?
Yeah. Yes, I did. The Robusto extra. It was like a Robusto size.
A Robusto Corto, a 4.5
Right.
by 48.
Yep.
And both in the Maduro and in the Habano, and that's gonna retail at $5. You know, we did that to get into people's hands to show people, like, you know, try this, and we're excited about that.
And I noticed something what you did at the show with that cigar is they were 30 count boxes, and you took them down a little more. Was it 24?
Yeah, we changed it to 24. We did that with a couple boxes. We also released some boxes that were in 10 counts as well. It makes it easier for people to buy a box if it's a 10 count or even a 24 count, like instead of the bigger counts, because let's face it, you know, this is our beautiful passion here. It does add up. So
it does.
I just want to interject. I did find the cigar that I did unbanded from Mark Jr. and Stogie saying it was a Gurkha Black Dragon Imperial Presidente.
Oh, love that cigar.
Connecticut broadleaf Maduro wrapper. Cameroon binder and Dominican filler. And it's a 7x58. And I got it for $5 per cigar online. And I tell you what, the guys really like that cigar a lot.
Yeah, that's a steal on that cigar, by the way.
It truly is. That cigar's awesome.
Yeah, that's a great cigar. So we do a special Bitola in that cigar, and we do them in these beautiful tubos, and that is not a cheap cigar. That's one of our big boys. That we do a lot of business overseas, and those cigars go for about $500 a box.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's a nice unbanded treat to give somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. It was one of the interesting. It really kind of fed into our culture here at the Stogie Geeks, where we smoke things. We give our opinions on them. We smoke things unbanded. We give our opinions on them, and we try and take preconceived notions and throw them out the window. But we're human, and doing that unbanded component, it takes some of that human component out of it, and just allows you to smoke the cigar. So, I think it's great.
That's why I love like blind test ratings. We do very well on those, and it takes all the preconceived notions out. Somebody told me the other day, and I'm doing the research to find out, but a cigar encyclopedia of a person told me, he's like, you have more 90s than pretty much anyone out there when it comes
to...
Yeah, when it comes to all of our lines. And I was like, I know we got a lot, but so I'm looking into it now, but it sure seems like it's true.
Now,
go ahead, Paul.
Well, I was just going to say, now on the high end, you have Her Majesty's Special Reserves, Secret Reserves. I apologize.
Reserve, yeah.
Her Majesty's Reserve.
I've smoked that. I've actually smoked that.
And what is that? Now, what is
lucky you.
What is the retail? What is the retail price on this cigar?
Well, okay, so they've actually gone up in price. We have published online that they're $1,500 a stick.
Mm-hmm.
But due to the fact that we're not really making them anymore, we're making extremely limited. They've gone up in price because that's what people are paying for them. So right now they're going for almost $2,000 a stick.
Wow. Now what's behind that price point? What's
you got to remember that, and then we make some infused cigars, and that cigar is infused, and that was something that we did with Louis XIII, which, as you know, Louis XIII's cognac is...
That's the one you see like up on the top shelf in Cigar Lounge, and it's like $400 for a small shot of it, right? Okay.
Right, and we put an entire shot into each cigar.
Wow.
So you combine that with the extremely aged tobacco and extremely rare tobacco and the whole package and everything that comes with it, it adds up.
Well, I've seen it in mainstream media, and representatives from your company talking about how it's the most expensive cigar in the world, and I've seen it on mainstream media as well.
It's actually the second most now, right? Isn't there one you now have more expensive?
We came out with the Maharaja, and that's a 10-count box, and same scenario. That came out at $2,000 a stick, and now it's going for about $3,000. Those cigars, people thought, oh, you guys are crazy. People will never buy it. At the show alone, we sold 3 boxes. Think about that. 3 boxes, more than $2,000 a piece at 10 per box. That's pricey. And we do pretty well with those overseas. A lot of these high ticket items do very well in Eastern Europe. They do very well in Asia.
In places
Middle
like
East.
Dubai as well?
Exactly, because
Yeah.
that's the culture and that's the market over there.
Mhm.
People want the best of the best and the most expensive. And when it is what it is, when it comes to that world, no one really could compete with us. So
It's more like a status symbol for them in
100%.
some of those countries. Yeah, I gotcha.
100%. Excellent cigar. Don't get me wrong, but
Well, it better be good if I'm paying $3,000 for a cigar, Eddie.
right. We've actually sold stuff that's a lot more expensive, but more like one-offs that we've done for royal family people in the Middle East and oligarchs in Russia and stuff like that, where we sold these boxes where it's the box goes for $160,000.
Well, and it's interesting. I can see many people listening to the show going, "Oh my God, I would never pay that for a cigar." But
people do.
But people do, and here's the thing: when you have a business or you're involved with a startup like I am, right? It's your. I read an article recently that I thought was very telling about like this price point kind of thing, and it's how many customers do you need to have at X price point to get to $100 million? Conceivably, you could have one customer, right?
Correct.
In one product that you sell for $100 million, or you could have a whole boatload that you sell, 100 million customers that are each paying $1, and those are all models, and most companies fall somewhere in between, obviously.
Yeah.
But that's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about, these cigars aren't marketed towards the Stogie Geeks of the world or the cigar enthusiasts that are listening to this show. They're marketed towards the upper echelon, and that's there's a niche there, and it's like sports cars are the same thing, right? Like these people who are buying these cigars
absolutely.
are also buying those $1 million plus sports cars or supercars, as they call them, to drive around Dubai. Yeah.
Yeah, and you might not see it in America as much. It does happen. Again, we've sold them here quite a bit, but it's when you're overseas and it really kind of blows you away.
Yeah.
So
like how much someone would pay for a car, cigars, whatever the case may be.
I was when I was living in Thailand for a bit, and I was distributing Gurkha over there. And at one point, I had this one very well-known businessman walks up to me and goes, "Hey, that box of cigars, the most expensive cigars in the world, you guys sell there. By the way, you got to remember, over there, there's a 400% import tax. So imagine that." The guy goes, "How much are they?" So I tell him the price, and I'm sitting here like, "Yeah, I'll tell you the price. I don't think anything." The guy turns around, he goes, "Cool, I want 10 boxes."
Wow.
And you just sit there and you're just like, wow, you really exist.
Yeah. Well, it's like our conversation about scotch, where we were talking about buying a bottle for $40 or $50 and what's good in a 10-year. You made a recommendation. What was that recommendation you made to me, Eddie? What was that, scotch?
Glengoyne 10.
Glengoyne 10, right? And then we started talking about Glenfarclas. Yep. And how I said the 40-year is like $800 a bottle, and like one of the ones that I remember standing in the store once, and the owner, Dennis Joyle, we're very friendly with the Joyle family. His brother Paul is in the cigar industry, makes awesome cigars. Dennis comes over and like takes like 4 or 5 bottles off the shelf and go, "Yeah, this is for someone's order." And like I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, that person just spent like, I don't know, $2,500 or $3,000 on a few bottles of scotch. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. No, it absolutely happens. I was in the scotch business there as well, so I saw a lot of insane stuff. We were selling bottles from distilleries that closed at $4,500 a bottle.
Right.
But there's those people in the world that they're collectors and connoisseurs of things.
Yeah,
and
it's obviously a much smaller market and a much smaller volume, probably a pretty high margin. But that's one business model, and if Gurkha is serving that model, all the more power to you. Now, me as a a Stogie Geek, I'd love to try one of those cigars. Now we're gonna take Stogie Geek's budget and go buy a $3,000 cigar, right?
We just can't.
We just can't, right? Yeah.
I'm the marketing director there, and I still can't touch those.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, those aren't ones they give out to employees either, right?
Yeah, I was trying to tell the guy, I was like, yeah, but I need to know what to tell the customer if they're like, no, don't try to pull that one on me, Eddie.
Right. And cigar is interesting. As cigars and spirits, it's a very consumable item. Like once you've smoked it or drank it, it's gone.
Gone. Yeah.
It's not like a Macallan. What's the sports car? I said the Scotch.
Oh, McLaren?
McLaren, thank you. McLaren is the car where if you're working for McLaren, you can go drive the car and say, hey, I drove it and talk about your experience.
I test drove it.
Right? Yeah. With a cigar, you got to smoke it and it's gone. You can say, yeah, I smoked it, but I can't give it back to you to smoke. Like it's gone. Like it's a consumable item. So I think that's interesting.
It was funny. I was watching somebody smoke His Majesty Reserve, and he was down 1/3 of the cigar, and he looked at me and goes, I just smoked an iPhone. He's like, and I got 2 more to go.
That's true.
Now I heard a story, and I believe it was Emmett Smith who went into a retailer wanting that cigar. And I guess the retailer has multiple stores. He didn't have it at this one store, and he had it at the other store. Mm-hmm. So he had to basically tell Emmett no. And he basically said, "Hey, I got these rare Fuentes. I got these, rare pre-Cubans." And he got, no, see ya. And Emmett walked out. I heard.
There's stuff like that happens. I mean, we have very loyal clients and very important big people. And I've always heard about it when I was a distributor and all that stuff. But when I started working there and I started seeing the people that walk into that office, I was kind of blown away because all the rumors I heard are pretty true. And big guys, Michael Jordan, Bill Clinton, they smoke.
Big cigar smoke, both very big cigar smokers.
And they legitimately smoke them. I mean, we'll get emails and phone calls saying, hey, so-and-so wants a few boxes. You were talking about the Giants. I don't know if you remember back in the day, Leonard Marshall. Do you remember him?
He's a big cigar guy.
Dude, he's one of our biggest clients. I mean,
really?
I've ended up hanging out with him a few times because of it, but he'll smoke a box of those a month.
Wow.
I've heard he's a big cigar guy. Yeah, that's real. It's interesting because I smoked you have another cigar. It's not quite as pricey, but I remember there was a Gurkha event in Charlotte, and the prize was a box of the Triads, which are about $100 a piece. And I remember I lost the box to someone, and this guy was really nice. He shared his box with everyone. I couldn't believe it. Wow. So I had one, and then I did smoke it the night of my daughter's wedding last year, which was
cool.
After the wedding. It was sitting for a couple of years. Excellent cigar. It was the Maduro. It's still $100 cigar. So I mean, again, it's
$100, but we have the Triad Platinum, which is another Maduro, just a different Vitola. That one goes for about $300.
Wow.
Yeah, and that one it's pretty much the same cigar, but we did this special Vitola, and we only released 2,000 of them, and that's all that was ever made. So the price was just up there.
So these are more, these aren't ones you're going to leave lying around the warehouse. These are more,
no,
more of an on-demand type of. We're going to make these.
I think it's really awesome for Gurkha to service the upper echelon as we're talking about, but also make cigars that I can buy online and pay $5 a cigar for, and be like, wow, that was a really good cigar. That's awesome.
And that's the main goal. I mean, we make a cigar for everyone, and a lot of people confuse that, right? So they'll be like, well, this is a $50 cigar. Why am I going to pay $50 when I could buy it for $5 online? And it's like, well, it's not really the same cigar. It's same brand, but it's not the same cigar. There's just different levels to it, Yeah,
I think people put their own labels on cigar brands, and they have their own kind of. They actually, for lack of a better term, they stereotype the brand, and a lot of people have stereotyped Gurkha in a certain way. People like Emmett Smith have stereotyped it as they make the best cigars, and that's what I'm going to go buy. And some of my friends that I talk to, they have stereotyped it as, well, that's the $3 or $4 cigar that people buy online that just want to smoke a cigar, that don't know what they want, and that's what they buy because it's the cheapest one at the time. And what I hear Eddie saying is, well, yes to everything, and there is a cigar for everyone, and you just have to find which one. And for me, being the Stogie Geek, we review, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of cigars per year. I find cigars I like in the Gurkha line, and I think that's what I want our listeners to take away from this interview is what we've always said. Don't put a stereotype on a particular brand. You just have to find what you like. And I think we've covered quite a bit of I mean, there's so many cigars you offer in the line, Eddie, so kind of a follow-on to that whole statement is, like what in the different price points and target markets, like what can you recommend? I guess let's target at our listeners. Like, what do you recommend for the Stogie Geek who wants to go buy boutique cigars? They're going to pay probably anywhere, between, $8 and $15 for a cigar in the boutique market. Like, what can you recommend from the Gurkha line?
Firstly, if that's, I would say go brick and mortar immediately. Forget everything, and I'm going to go on my personal preference, again, there's a cigar for everyone, but for me, we have a couple things that all the cellar reserves, phenomenal. So let's just throw that in there. But we have a lot of great, the Heritage, which I'm smoking now, the Maduro, but the Rosado Habano is unbelievable. The Extreme, which we just re-put out this year, we had to take it off the market for a year because we had some sort of issue, and now it's back on the market. And, that's a cigar that you're looking at, $7 for Robusto. Right. And it's a Nicaraguan Puro. It's well-aged because we had to stop selling it for a minute. So they sat in the factory for an extra year and a half, and that was pretty sweet. That's a cigar that when anyone ever says, especially boutique guys, I'm a boutique lover, try this one. And then you come back to me and tell me what you think. The Ghost, and we make that cigar with Abe Flores at PDR.
Yeah, and I've heard of we've reviewed the Ghost in the past.
I like the Ghost. That's that Araparaca on there.
Yeah, it's definitely one of our strongest cigars, but it's one of our biggest sellers, and it's insane. For me, it's a flavor bomb, and it's full of strength as well. It's got that Brazilian Arapiraca wrapper on it. It's like, it looks like chocolate, and God, that's so good. And then we also have the Royal Challenge, which the Royal Challenge is a mild cigar, and we did that, because there's tons of mild smokers out there, and you're looking at $5 to $7 for that stick, and that's another great cigar. And what else? Oh, this year we released the Founder Select, which should be hitting the stores within the next month. That's the cigar I was telling you about that we did a 10-count box, and that cigar has a nice, Connecticut shade wrapper and Nicaraguan binder and filler, and again, that cigar is phenomenal. So a
question from the chat, Eddie. If someone is a primarily Cuban cigar smoker, what from the Gurkha line would you recommend that they try?
If you're predominantly a Cuban cigar smoker, well, I think the new Founders is great. I would probably our 125th anniversary because it's nice medium, and then again go for the Extreme. Trust me, that's a cigar that'll blow your socks off. And if you have access to the cellar reserves, I'd say the cellar 18 year. That by far. I actually just did an event in Asia, which is predominantly Cuban smokers, and that's what I brought out. And
it was the Gurkha Cellar Reserve 18th.
18-year-old, yeah.
18-year-old, okay.
Yeah.
Especial that's the one with the brownish band, the bronze band.
Right. Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
Awesome. Will, more questions for Eddie?
So Eddie, and we kind of touched on this right before the show, but obviously your influence coming into Gurkha has been on some of the new projects at IPCPR around pairings. Now, Gurkha's nothing new to pairings, from what I understand. But this year, you had some really cool projects that I think, if you're a pairings person, I think these are some cigars that the Stogie Geeks are going to want to check out. Maybe you could talk a little about those.
Yeah, we came out with quite a few. So we came out with one called the Cigar Malt Collection, and that was a fun project. So it's a box that comes with 5 different cigars, and each cigar is meant to be paired with a different spirit. So you have the Portwood, which at the time we were trying to pair it with like the Balvenie Portwood. You have the Havana Spice, which we were pairing with Florida Caña Rum at the time. You have the Oak Blend, which was being paired with a Macallan. Granted, you could pair with any other beverages that fall under the same flavor profiles, but we wanted to basically get people 5 cigars that pair with 5 different types of single malts, bourbons, and rums. And that project started because we're at the factory in Nicaragua, and as you do when you're there, we're having a few libations, and it was kind of like, hey, roll me something that goes with this, and we started playing around, and cool, and then another beverage, and it turned out that we were like, how great would it be if people could do this at home? They could be hanging out with their buddies, and everybody, you know how it is. People come over, everyone brings a bottle or something, and be like, hey, try this. This goes perfect with that. Try that. That goes perfect with that. And that's how that project was born. And then we have the Blend Masters Cask, which was, the blend stood on its own when we were doing all that. So instead of including it in the box of 5 different blends, we decided to make it its own product. And that cigar you ever had that cigar that kind of goes with everything?
Yes.
That pretty much was that's what that was. And then we came out with the new Bourbon Collection cigar, which that's meant to be paired with bourbon, I guess, but it's infused with bourbon. And we did that with the Hartfield and Co. Distillery out of Bourbon County, Kentucky. And what can I say? It's great.
Eddy, folks in the chat were asking again what you're smoking.
I'm smoking the Gurkha. See that right? Yep. The Gurkha Heritage Maduro that we just released right now, and it should already have hit a bunch of brick and mortars.
And that's a brick and mortar only release?
Yes.
Okay.
And all I can say is go out and buy it. It's this thing right here. So, San Andres wrapper, Brazilian Arapiraca binder, Nicaraguan fillers with a little bit of Pennsylvania fillers. We front loaded the cigar for an extra kick with some Pennsylvania tobacco to give it a little extra oomph. And oh God, it's like chocolate and coffee heaven. So I love it.
Eddy, back to the Bourbon Collection. You actually partnered with I believe it was a bourbon distillery it's the only one, if I'm not correct, if I may have this wrong, is it the only one that's in actually Bourbon County?
Yeah, Kentucky? It is. So Bourbon County obviously was originally where bourbon came from, and then Prohibition happened, and everybody packed up shop, closed down, and moved, or shut down, really. So when Prohibition was over, people weren't opening up in Bourbon County anymore, and this is the first guy to do it. And as I'm, people that really get into cigars are very similar to people that really get into spirits, and I quite love bourbon. So I really wanted to work together with a craft distillery that really didn't care about numbers. They just cared about the quality of the product. So if they only released 200,000 bottles that year, then that's all they released, because they just wanted the product to be perfect. And that's all they cared about. And what better of a company to partner up and do something with than them, So.
And what was the distillery, Eddy?
It's called Hartfield and Co.
Okay.
I have a bottle next to me. I could show it to you if you want.
Sure, yeah.
Giving them a plug. Give me a second.
Product placement. That's okay.
1 second.
Yeah, well, I'm into bourbon, not as much as some of my friends, but there's some really fantastic bourbon on the market today, and it's kind of funny when we had our son, who's like 3.5 months now.
Oh, there we go.
One of my the CEO of the company that I worked for at my day job that I left in February, I worked there for a long time. I'm good friends with him. Sent us bourbon for my wife and I. His birth gift for us was bourbon.
That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Great. That's like the perfect gift, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, we called the company up. We fell in love with their product, and it was kind of like a match made in heaven, and it's developed into this amazing relationship. They just built a brand new distillery, and like right off the distillery, they're doing their own like cigar lounge. So it's going to be a Gurkha exclusive cigar lounge
Nice.
at a bourbon distillery. So
your bourbon
how cool is that? You know, you're going to go to the distillery. You walk off premise a little bit. They have a craft cocktail bar that's just all stuff made with their product only. And then you walk upstairs, and it's a Gurkha Cigar Lounge, you know.
And so now the cigar that you did in collaboration with them, Eddy, is that were the leaves aged in the bourbon barrels?
No. This was in the same method that we infuse, like the Private Select, which is a cigar we made with Ron Abuelo, and the same way we do the Grand Reserve with Remy Martin. We did the same process.
Is that like a proprietary process that you can't talk about?
It is, and it's been a big hit for Gurkha for all these years, and it's rated number one.
No, I can imagine people's creativity and imagination running wild about how you would take a spirit and infuse that into the tobacco. There's lots of different methods for that.
There is.
The one that we've seen predominantly in the market is they take the barrels from, the one that's disclosed to us is they take the barrels from whatever, rum, scotch, bourbon, whatever, and they put the leaves in there and they let the leaves ferment essentially in the barrels.
Yeah, I mean, that's a way to do something. I wouldn't necessarily say that infuses the flavor, but what we do is we don't do that.
Okay.
But,
well, that's good for our listeners to know. I mean, because I can see that the leaves that are in contact with the barrel, right? Are So I can see other methods developing.
And a lot of people do that. I mean, not to infuse anything, but aging in bourbon barrels, quite a few companies do that, and it has a phenomenal effect on the product. And
I find it adds more of like aroma than it does like a flavor or specific taste.
Correct. I'd have to agree with you on that.
And when we talk about infusion, of course, Drew Estate has been doing that for a long time, and it's a different experience, right? Like those flavors and tastes are experienced very differently. And Drew Estate is another company that doesn't really they don't disclose, they don't disclose how they do that. So
yeah, we don't disclose it either,
and that's fine.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when I first started working there and I saw it, I was like, oh wow, this is impressive. And they were like, never bring anyone back here.
Yep. You can't bring people back here. You can't talk about it. Yep.
Yeah, nothing. I was like, all right, hey, what are you drinking now? You just switched on me.
One of our employees here, Keith, who's he does executive producing and sales for us, made me a hammer and sickle lemon drop martini.
In a coupe glass.
Yes. We keep these glasses in the freezer. We're very serious about our cocktails here, Eddy.
Well, you got your own glass made.
The glasses are in the freezer. The vodka's usually in the freezer.
There's a tiki bar on the other side of Paul that you can't see.
Right there in the studio. We're very serious about our cocktails here.
Yeah, no, listen, that's in the Guerra household. It's the same thing. My girlfriend and I we do cocktail hour.
What's your favorite? We were talking before about the old fashioned, Eddy. What is one of your top 3 cocktails to pair with cigars?
Oh, actually, an old fashioned for me is great, but I get a little geeky with it. So it depends. I do my own handcrafted syrups right at home. So I'll do like a black pepper old fashioned, which is awesome.
Interesting.
Yep. I've done a a rum old fashioned.
Yep, we do those too. Yeah.
Love those.
Rum is great in an old fashioned, and everyone's
I
like,
agree.
"Oh, it's the same." It's interesting. It's the same stereotype, Eddie. People are like, "Oh, I don't like these kind of cigars or that kind of cigar," and they're like, "I don't like rum." And then I make them an old fashioned. I put rum in it, and I don't tell them, and they drink the whole thing. They're like, "Wow, that was good." They're like, "What was that?" I'm like, "That was
Rum.
a rum old fashioned." I'm like, "It was rum."
Yeah.
And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, you got to expand your horizons, right?"
Yep. I do a lot of smoke infusion as well, but so the old fashioned for me works great. I also do. I like to drink sipping mezcal, neat. So a good
What is mezcal? That's
Mezcal is like tequila, but from Oaxaca, it's the process is a little bit different, but it's basically. So think of a very high end tequila, but peaty, smoky.
right. Tequila is another one where people are like, "Yeah, I did like 16 shots of tequila," and
well, they're drinking the wrong stuff,
and then they ended up like naked on the front lawn in the morning, and they're like, "Well, it just happened. I'm never drinking tequila again." But
tequila might be my all-time favorite spirit. If you're drinking the right tequila,
yeah,
first of all, it goes brilliant with cigars.
it does. I agree.
Brilliant. So if you could go from a Don Julio Reposado, which you could sip that if you like, to all the way the 1942, which I like to call Mexican cognac.
Yes. Yeah.
But
no, I
it
agree.
is not. So that whole world works for me as well. And then I definitely enjoy a Negroni.
Very nice. Yes, you are indeed a cocktail geek.
Yeah.
One of the my friends that taught me how to make cocktails, Negroni is one of the like staples in his
Vintage.
arsenal. It's a vintage cocktail. What is a Negroni now? I forget what's in it.
It is. A lot of people do it with gin. It's mainly with gin. Sometimes I like to alter things, and so instead, like, hey, make it for me with bourbon or this and that, just to get. So it's gin and Campari, and you'll do a bitters and a twist of an orange.
It's an orange, right? Is that the one one of the ones you can light the orange on fire to bring the oils out in it?
Some
right?
people do that.
Yeah.
I've done it. I enjoy it. I don't always have the time to do that, but
Negroni goes good with cigars too.
When you really want to get geeky, the way I do it, I have like a little mini barrel at home, and then you could barrel age it and.
It's interesting. My friend who I was speaking, my friend's name is Jack Daniel. He's been on the show, the Stogie Geeks show before.
I mean, is that literally his name?
Literally his name, without the S. His name is Jack Daniel. He's a very good friend of mine. I've known him for years, and he appears on our other podcast network in computer security. But he's appeared on the Stogie Geeks specifically to talk about cocktails because it's like a hobby of his, and he does all the cocktail. And he says recently he's got some stuff barrel aging. It might be a Negroni. Really? It might be a Negroni that's barrel aging for him.
A lot of people do age Negronis.
Yeah.
Just cocktails. I mean, they're huge everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. And cocktail bars are big. And luckily in Miami, we have the opportunity that we could smoke and drink inside the same venue indoors. Right. So it's fun because you could go to a bar and really explore craft cocktails with boutique cigars, with anything, like it's just.
Yeah, and what I love about cocktails is a very similar experience to what you get in a cigar. It's slightly different ingredients that balance each other out to create an experience, a flavor profile, kind of experience. And cigars are very, very similar to cocktails in that.
Oh, absolutely.
Respect. For example, he actually just brought me some black walnut bitters. And I don't know if you
can have a blast with bitters, man.
Oh, the black walnut, though, and I've said this on the show before, and it's interesting because he just brought some and we're talking about it now. That flavor profile that the black walnut bitters brings, that's what I made my old-fashioned with tonight, complements, just about any cigar on the market.
Of course.
If you made a nice cocktail with black walnut bitters, like, it just pairs so well with cigars.
Yeah, that's like when you do... Actually, I did that the other day on an old fashioned. I went to a bar and I was like, what what flavor bitters do you have? I don't want to use a regular Angostura. And this lady's like, well, I got chocolate bitters. And I was like,
yes, that works too.
Dude,
yes.
let's give it a shot. She's looking at me like I'm kind of crazy. I'm like, dude, let's just do it. And it was unreal.
With a cigar, it is chocolate or black walnut bitters. Absolutely.
And it's also like when it comes, I love martinis as well, but you do a nice espresso martini with a cigar, and coffee, cigars, vodka.
Yeah, coffee and cigars go together. I can see that going together as well.
Yeah, I sound like an alcoholic.
No. I think they're very similar in going together with each other. Yeah.
It's it's an adult playtime.
It is.
So
Will, do you have more questions for Eddy? Sorry, we're geeking out about cocktails and cigars. It's good.
Yeah, I guess one last question, Eddy. Obviously FDA is now it's not on the horizon; it's here.
Yeah, it is.
Gurkha's got a lot of older stuff. And there's a lot of stuff in the archives. Can we expect to see some of this stuff possibly now becoming more to the forefront again?
Yeah, expect it all. Knock on wood, Gurkha. We were one of those companies that Gurkha was launched in 1989, so we're pre-2007 galore. We got tons of stuff, and luckily, we never really removed anything from the market. The only thing that we would do is just make it regional or exclusive to certain places. So you might not have seen it anymore, but now because of the FDA, we said, you know what? No more regional, no more exclusive. This has got to be available to everybody, and that's what you're going to be seeing. So, but we're lucky. We're definitely blessed, and it's that we have that ammunition. So.
That's great.
Yeah. So you'll definitely see a lot of the vintage stuff come back and be on the mainstream, and yeah, we're good. It's still a shame of everything that's happening. It's really messed up, but keep on trucking and stay the course, and that's all we could say.
Yeah, one thing I guess I was concerned with from Gurkha is, as far as what you guys do with packaging, obviously there's going to be some changes that are going to have to happen to your packaging now, which is unfortunate, but I think you guys are going to find a creative way to still get your message out.
It's definitely going to be, the thing is, papers have come out, but they haven't really 100% said, this is it, and we're hoping for the best. Obviously, we're complying with everything, and it is going to be a little weird when, the way we do our packaging. It's a major part of our brand, and some things will have to be altered. But we'll see what happens when the final word comes down. But it is what it is. You know what? It could be worse. I don't know if you've seen cigars in any other countries, but.
True.
It could be much worse. Trust me.
Absolutely.
So we have a friend in Australia, and he's told us a lot of stories about that. Yeah.
Well, you can't. My old partner when I was working in Asia was from Australia, and he left Australia because of that. And we're talking about 5-6 years ago, and they weren't even allowed to have bands on cigars.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to a shop, there's no bands, there's no boxes. You're basically buying cigars, and they give it to you in a brown paper bag. You got to basically trust your brick and mortar over there that they're actually selling you what they're saying that they're selling you. Australia's actually a very interesting place. It's so regulated. It's crazy.
Well, Eddy, obviously, if you're ever in the Rhode Island area, please do stop by the studio. I'd love to share cocktails and cigars with you.
Absolutely.
It'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that would be a blast.
And I want to thank you for coming on the Stogie Geeks show tonight. It was awesome having you. I know our listeners in the live chat are already going in their humidors and pulling out Gurkha cigars, and actually a couple of them said they were ordering them online as we speak. So I want to thank our live audience. Special thanks to Eddy for this segment. Thanks everyone for watching. We're going to take a short break. Guys. Come right back. Thanks, Eddy.
Thank you.
Thank you.